Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing marvellously well. I'm sitting here with the rather wonderful Brian Tench. Brian, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Marvellous. Now, I'm sure everybody's already seen you in our Hounds of Love video and know, of course, that you worked on that album, which is one of the greatest albums ever made, I might humbly say. I think it's a masterpiece. But give us a little bit of background. Where were you born?
Trinidad, in the West Indies. Yeah. You might know my brother, who is a guitarist, played with Jeff Beck and Van Morrison and various other people, Hummingbird, Bobby Tench.
Your brother's Bobby Tench?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Okay. Yes.
Oh my God, he's on some of my favourite records. He's on Rough and Ready.
Yes.
Yeah. That's amazing. All my hairs are standing on end. I didn't know that. What a musical family. So your brother's Bobby Tench.
He got the music. I just got some good ears. So I think I was lucky with it. No, I'm not musical really as such. At school, my secondary school, some of the boys, the nerdier boys, built a recording studio, and I was friends with one of them. And I got into a bit of radio electronics. We had a 2-track Revox. We used to call the school bands, do the sound effects for the school plays, all that kind of stuff, and do a radio show at lunchtime that went broadcast over the school. But I never thought of it as a career. But the friend of mine who got me into it, he got a job as a tape operator, T-boy, at Mayfair Studios, which was based in South Malton Street at the time, which was a paved street. Worst place for a studio. No trucks could get down there. You have to wheel from the bottom of the road. Plus, we were upstairs above a chemist. And the recording room was yet another floor up as well. But it was a very successful studio. Anyway, I got a job there. Another job came up, and he said, "Oh, Brian," so I was like, "Oh, I'll go and do it as a summer job." Well, you go into music as a summer job, and it kind of sticks with you. I was working with, at the time, and it was a real pop studio, so it was Bay City Rollers.
Incredible.
Gary Glitter, not supposed to mention.
Right, not anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, he recorded there. Hello, Slick, which is where I met Midge the first time.
Wow.
In his first pop band, yeah. So it was a real pop studio. And then Midge liked the studio, so then he came back with Visage, Landscape and all those kind of people. And that's where I got into electronics and started working with electronic drums and computers. And yeah, my sort of mentor and tutor at the time was John Hudson, who recorded and mixed What's Love Got to Do With It, Tina Turner record.
Working with Ultravox, so what period was that?
That was the Vienna period. They were off with Connie Plank doing that. We just did some overdubs here and there. But Midge came in. The Visage album was recorded at Mayfair, Fade to Grey, and all those. So yeah,
I bought that album. Sort of the early cutting-edge days of electronic music.
Yeah.
Although you just mentioned Connie Plank, of course, from who made all those incredible 70s German what we call krautrock albums.
Yeah.
What an incredible talent that was as well.
I suppose Midge got his electronic sort of, because Connie it was all electronic, the whole album. And Warren did play live drums, but then on top of the electronic drums as well, just various other things. But yeah.
Amazing.
So a lot of those early things. Then I mixed a track for Bow Wow Wow, Prince of Darkness, when they liked it. And then they came back and we did Go Wild in the Country. I got to produce and mix that one, which, surprisingly to me, was a top 10 hit in England. And then it just took off from there. Just generally everything I did. I was lucky, in the right studio at the right time, and the right people come through the doors. Kate coming to do 2 weeks on The Dreaming. I was the engineer that was available at the time and did the gig, and therefore thought of later on. Oh, I know. Why don't we get Brian?
What did you do on the Dreaming with Kate?
We recorded some pianos, some percussion, and I think some of the weird noises that was on that album. Yeah, just a lot of, it was overdubs. Boxes and boxes of 2-inch tapes came in, and Kate's creativity running wild. And then, we were a stopgap because they were then off to the townhouse or something after that, fitting in the period of time. But again, lucky for me that it was done, because I wouldn't have been thought of to go and do Hounds of Love.
How old were you when you started at Mayfair? Was that straight out of school?
Straight out of school, 17.
17 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just 17.
So you were super malleable. They knew they just had somebody they could mold.
I made a really good cup of tea, non-scurf. No scurf on the tea. I think that one John over, he's like, oh, you can do tea without scurf. Okay, Excellent.
What was the gear there those days in Mayfair? What was the console? Do you remember?
The console was a console built by John. He was a BBC engineer, and the console was his that he'd handmade.
Wow.
Again, no computer or anything like that. It was just all manual mixing until we went to Sharpleshall Street. The whole studio moved to Primrose Hill, and then we got a NAMEC. When AMEC before SSL, John he loved the EQ, and it was really good sounding desk. I've got to say that the first AMEC at Mayfair, which is what did I think, that did the Tina song and a few of the other
incredible,
the Bow Wow and various other things like that were done there on the AMEC desk before it went to an SSL.
What did you work on between the Dreaming and Hounds of Love? What I've got here is Ultravox, Raging Eden, 81, Bucks Fizz.
Yes, I did a lot.
Are you ready?
Fizz.
Yeah. I Want Candy, Bow Wow Wow, B.A. Robinson.
Yeah.
I remember B.A. Robinson.
Yeah.
Then Visage, The Anvil.
Yeah.
Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark.
Okay, so 1982, OMD came to the studio and we finished Maid of Orleans, Architecture and Morality. Then they did Dazzle Ships, and then, which I had nothing to do, I did a Romance with a Telescope, I think, on that one. And then the album that I co-produced with Andy and Paul, which had Locomotion on it, and Talking Loud and Clear. That was got to go to Montserrat, a mixed mid-years album as well.
Incredible, Montserrat. How was that?
Oh, what a place. What a place. You just relaxed into the whole atmosphere. It was a nice studio with a nice nave and a window that looked out over the pool and then down a valley into the sea. It was, and everyone said, oh, wouldn't that put you off? And actually, it didn't. If you're in a studio,
yep,
you're in a studio to work anyway.
Yep.
And generally, it's this room where there's no window. Back in the day, it was just, we're in, nothing. You can't see anything. Can't see outside. Outside doesn't exist. But they had this big bay window in Air Montserrat. So you saw it. And that to me was nice. You could just look over and go, oh, I'll be going out there in a little while for lunch. How nice is that? Rather than I'm stuck in this room and I can't see outside. And you could see the pool and then the sea. It was lovely. Absolutely lovely. Got to go there 3 times, I think.
Did you actually ever get out of the studio and go and frolic on the beach?
Oh, yeah. Every night they had a chef, George, and you'd have a wonderful meal at 8 o'clock, 7 or 8 o'clock every night, sitting on a veranda, freshly cooked food, local food, fish. It was wonderful, wonderful. And the studio manager was lovely, Yvonne. She was everything was catered for. We got to stay in a place. We got given little jeeps to drive around in.
Amazing.
And then I got to work with my hero, who I suppose my first thought of sound was as an Average White Band album.
Right.
When I was young, which had Pick Up the Pieces on it. And I was a bit of a soul boy. And I loved that album, thinking, wow, these guys are from Scotland. But the producer was Arif Mardin. And then he'd done Hall & Oates as well, which I liked as well. And then I researched, and he'd done the Rascals and been with It was a bit of like, oh, he's done a couple of things that I really like, you know. Oh, and he did Nights on Broadway, the Bee Gees, and you know. So I had this thing, Arif Bardin in my head, and he was coming over to England, and he getting booked into Mayfair Studios to finish off Separate Lives with Phil Collins and Marilyn Martin. So we did the vocals with Phil, we did the vocals with Marilyn, and then some piano. I can't remember who did the piano on it, but someone came in and did some piano. And then Arif said to me, okay, I'm going out to dinner now. Can you do me a rough mix to take back to America? And I was like, yeah, okay. And as he left the room, I turned to the assistant. I said, get ready. We're going to do 2 hours of the hardest work you've ever done.
Wow.
And I just went to town like, plug that in. I was just shouting at him. He remembers it because he often talks about it. And anyway, so Arif came back and he said, oh, just play me the mix, what you've done. Played him the mix and he went, oh, okay, hang on, let me just do some vocal rides. And that was the mix.
That was the mix.
That was the mix. Number one, US and UK.
Incredible.
Yeah. So then he got me to do the Bee Gees with him, and we did You Win Again. So yeah, which again was their first hit in a decade, and creating a different sound.
Right.
But you know, You Win Again just was everyone was like, how did you do that sound? You know, it was just a collection of.
How did you do the sound?
It was, well, Morris had already sort of started it off. And then when he brought it in, we just, Arif had the idea, he just wanted it to be big. So it just kept layering it with sounds. And if you listen very carefully, every beat is kind of different. So it's in four. So it's, and it goes through this pattern. But everyone thinks it just goes. But if you listen very carefully, Air Candy, it doesn't. So wow. We created that, and again, they had their first number one in the 80s in England, since they got panned for being, you know, the disco band.
Amazing. And is this all before Hounds of Love?
No, this was after Hounds of Love.
Immediately after Hounds of Love.
Yeah, I did Hounds of Love, then went off to do the Bee Gees, and I was busy when Kate was starting the next album, because they did ask me to come and engineer for them the next album, and I wasn't available at all. So
you must have been bummed. Were you?
I was.
Heaven 17?
Yes, did Heaven 17.
Maxi Priest?
Yes, did it out with Sly and Robbie.
Amazing.
Which was an experience. Fantastic.
That must have been amazing. Oh.
I think it was a really good. Maxi's got a great voice.
He really does.
Good voice. And we did a record called Just Want to Know, which I still play today and go, well, I don't understand why this wasn't a hit, but there you go. You know,
working with Sly and Robbie must have been incredible.
Yeah, it was quite funny because Sly had he didn't play anymore. It was all programming. He loved to program.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, he loved to program. So he would sit at the back and have his headphones on and then go, right, sync this up, and then you'd sync it up and have a great feel. I was lucky throughout that period. I just got to work with absolute legends of the industry. Barry, Kate, Sly, Robbie, you know, Midge, all just fantastic artists. Terry Britton and Tina Turner.
Incredibly varied and eclectic resume, which is wonderful. Keeps it interesting.
Well, yes, I like music, so I was never pinned down, and I think that could have been. It's probably to my detriment in the long run, because people get. You do a rock sound, you do this sound, you do this. You're a dance thing. I just like music, and as you can see, they're all different artists, genres, styles, sounds. I like creating for people to put on headphones. Just go, oh wow, oh wow, oh. Little bits of ear candy to me are just. I think I got a lot of that from working with Kate. Did I just hear that? Yeah, and people go, oh, and then it makes them want to listen again. And as long as they're enjoying the record, it's not just a record of bits and pieces that don't join up and mean nothing at all. The record has to be good, but if you can add a little air candy to it while making a good record, then best of both worlds to me.
What are you working on now? I think you were saying earlier, you enjoy mixing the most. So are you essentially now mixing records?
I am. I just mixed a track for my son.
Nice.
It's an artist called Debbie. A wonderful voice, beautiful, big.
So your son is now producing?
Yes, he's writing and producing. I know, which made me give up. He's so good. I'm like, yeah, great, take it. I don't think his mother wanted him to be in the business, but he just wanted to be in it. And my other son is his manager.
Wow.
Which I love, actually, because it means, he's never going to be, he looks after him. Just
I mean, you're a very musical family. Between you and your brother, you've covered a lot of bases.
Yeah.
It's growing up with a dad and an uncle that's so successful. It's probably hard not to be in the music industry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, their mum was a backing singer who sang with Duran Duran, went on the world tour with Duran Duran and sang with Bob Geldof and various.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, even more. Yeah. Even more.
Yeah. So he's got a little something going in there. But he's good. He's good. I'm working with Nick Tauber, who did Toya back in the day and various other things. And so I'm mixing an album for him as well at the moment as well. I was going to tell you about the girl from Sound Better, a girl called Rachel Lyne, who the first album she ever heard was Hounds of Love. So she's kind of got this Kate Bush thing about her. She's Korean, adopted, lives in America, and she was from Minneapolis. She's now in New York. And she found me, and we did this album. And there's a couple of tracks on it which I really enjoyed. I enjoyed mixing, creating with her and trying to, not a huge amount, but it's got some good credits to it or reviews about the album, about her name, about her music. And she's not as good a singer as Kate, but it's quite good. It's not bad. And I enjoyed mixing. So I've been keeping my sort of irons in the fire, as we say, as such, But now I've got, as I say, I've got my Pro Tools. I've got my NS10s, but I mix a lot with headphones because a lot of people listen on headphones. Everyone walking around with an iPhone or a phone, they're on headphones. They're listening.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah.
On headphones. So I do a lot of mixing on the headphones. But what I find that lets me down is the mastering a lot of the time these days, because they just try and make it as loud as possible, which it loses the tone of the song. They don't master sympathetically to the music. It's just mastered for volume, generally, which I find a shame.
Mastering is still an incredible art, isn't it? You really do need somebody that has a great ear and will really pay attention to what you've done. Give it some great detail.
And take the time, because it still takes each song needs to be looked at to then blend in. Again, mastering, Kate.
Who mastered Hounds of Love?
Ian Cooper mastered the album. The single was mastered at Abbey Road. That was one of my favourite Kate stories. So we're still making the album, and we had to master Running Up That Hill. We're mastering at Abbey Road, and I lived in Primrose Hill at the time. So Kate was coming up, and she's getting, "Oh, can you give me a lift back after the mastering?" And I was like, "Yes." And I had this convertible Volkswagen Cabriolet, and so it was a nice summer's day in England, and I had to drive through London with Kate Bush sitting next to me in my car.
Wow.
And as we were driving down Bond Street and all, everyone's going, and I'm going, yeah, that's, yeah, I've got, hello.
I've got Kate Bush in the car with me. Yeah.
It was fantastic because she's quite striking, with the hair and, the top was down. I said, shall I put the top up? And she, no, it was an experience. So yeah, Ian Cooper mastered the album. Sorry, I just thought of that little anecdote there.
That's incredible.
It's one of those memories that sticks with you.
Ian started Metropolis, didn't he? In the early 90s.
He was one of the, but it was mastered at Townhouse.
Right.
When we did it, that's where he was based, at the Townhouse. Then he moved to Metropolis when they were all doing the whole thing. But again, it was like five. I think I've got old. They're probably worth fortunes of acetates and first pressings. Where and we'd listen to it and go, no, not happy with that. All right, try again. We go back in and another. Yeah, okay. No, this isn't it. 5 times, I think, if I remember rightly.
That's amazing.
To get people don't take that time anymore to do things like that, or that amount of time to make an album.
Well, I mean, it was made at her own rate, as you were saying, but obviously on her own dime as well. So it's.
But it wasn't as though we took time off.
Right.
I was driving from Primrose Hill to Kent 6 days a week.
How long was the drive?
An hour plus.
What time would you finish at night? And what time would you start in the morning? Would you
10:30?
So it was like a 12-hour day.
I was just I just back and then back and then back and then back. Yeah.
You never stayed the night?
No, well, Kate didn't either, because it was literally just because it was the mum and dad's house in the house, and then they went off because they had a drive as well to the country house, which was little cottage, and that was 40 minutes away from the studio, so they had a drive as well. Kate and Dell. It was dedication, but again, it's if you're traveling somewhere that you actually really enjoy being. I don't ever remember. There were a couple of times I was sitting in traffic going, oh God, but then you get there and it's all gone. Oh, what are we doing today? And we look on the board of our list of tracks and where we're at and how we're going, and what's going up on the board today? Oh, this one's still up from yesterday. We still got to do this and still got to do that. And, so it was a joy. You don't mind that travel. It didn't even compute in my head that I was doing all that sort of traveling, and I was just enjoying it.
If you want to get hold of Brian and you want to hire him, you can contact him on LinkedIn down here.
Absolutely, I'm there. Thank you very much for it.
Thank you, Brian. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate it too, very much.
Thanks ever so much.
Thank
so
you.
long.
Bye
Farewell.
Thank you.
Auf Wiedersehen. Au revoir. Goodbye.
Bye.